1, 2, 3.
Alright guys, let's talk a little about the Sony C800 and specifically compared to the 24K. Now, the reason why I have a C800 here is to do just this, to compare what I'm working on, what I'm designing to one of the classics. I mean, the Sony is not an old classic, but it's a new classic, you might say. Quite recent actually, compared to the others. We're talking 90s, I think. All right, which is, 35 years ago, so there's that. But anyway, long story short, the Sony is considered a very bright microphone, and you can hear that on my voice now, and I got it in my headphones. Let me switch. The Nordic 24K is also bright, but in a slightly different way. And let me address that a little bit, and I'll explain to you what the difference really is. As you can see, I printed out measured the frequency responses of these microphones and put them on the same, like an overlay here. So you can see that the Sony has this very sharp peak, a very narrow peak compared to the other one, which means that it's a smaller range of frequency that gets this boost, which is quite considerable. It's about 7 dB. The 24K also has a lot of top end, but it's a wider peak, and it also extends much further on. And the difference is how it's accomplished, how it's done. I can tell you that the Sony is supposedly based on the K67 capsule, which is bright. But the U67 microphone, which uses the K67, is not that bright. And the reason for that is that there's EQ in the microphone. The capsule is bright. The electronics have equalization, which tames down the top end, so you get less noise. You get you can get more of a flat frequency response. But in the circuitry of the Sony, there's no such thing. It's a very straightforward, basic circuit without any EQ. So that's when you get this amount of top end, which can be really nice. Okay, it's been used before. It's been used in other microphones, many Asian microphones, some of lesser quality, and some Australian microphones, famous ones. I'm sure you know what I'm thinking about. The idea here is that if you have a bright capsule and you put it in a flat amplifier without an equalization, then you get a bright microphone. And I think this has sold a lot of de-essers, to put it that way. But there's nothing wrong with a lot of, if it works for you with a lot of air, with a lot of high frequency, then go for it. Okay, so what we try to do in the 24K is a little bit different, trying to give you that same amount of high frequency without this peaky behavior, this peaky response, which can be a little problematic. I'm sure if you play with an equalizer that would, have a peaky, very narrow peak sounds compared to a broad one. It's more of a shelf response. So that's basically the difference. Let me go a little bit closer and listen to the Sony like this. Okay. And then I have the 24K like this. Okay, that's a different sound. I'm switching between the two. To me, when I'm listening to microphones, I'm trying to listen to where the microphone sits in my head, especially when I'm this close. That's one of my I think of what I'm listening to is some kind of phase response. And it's very important to have, zero latency when you do that. Of course, another test is to try it from a distance like this, and you can hear the reach of the microphone, if it's reaching nicely, if it retains the low end, or if it loses some on the way. So, but depending on your application and your vocalist and whatever, there might be like a sweet spot in distance as well. So, all right, that's all I have to say.